Hello everyone, Ace here, and today let's talk Star Wars comics. And more specifically, let's talk about the recently released brand new series set in the High Republic. Written, tragically of course, by Cavan Scott. Simply titled Star Wars The High Republic. You may now be wondering how this is a brand new series, given that Star Wars The High Republic is a comic book series that has been out for quite a while, and of course was written by Cavan Scott from the very get-go. However, the simple answer is that this is somehow a brand new series with the exact same name, made by the exact same people. And with that in mind, it inevitably leads to the big question: is this series so far as bad as the original High Republic? And the short answer is no. However, it is still bad. Though credit where credit is due, if you can call it that, the comic doesn't implode in on itself until much later on into it. And it occurs via a second story within the same book. But to start off, the overlying plot is that this book takes place in a city known as Jeddah, which is called, quote, the Holy City, which is a popular pilgrimage and holiday destination. So basically Space Jerusalem, to the point that it's so blatant that the currency of the city is literally called Zekels. And the plot so far basically revolves around the Jedi trying to apprehend an individual which is causing strife between the various religious groups. And yes, this is indeed the better part of this comic book, because as blatant as Space Jerusalem is, I didn't catch on to any particular virtue signaling on the part of Cavan Scott during this first story. And also, I will admit that the characters in this case were at least better written than what you would typically expect from Cavan Scott. Had this comic book ended then and there with the first story, I would not be trashing it in this video. I wouldn't be exactly praising it, but I wouldn't be trashing it either. This, however, changes entirely thanks to the second story, which is about how the religious groups in Space Jerusalem all go into a blind, bloody, murderous rage at the mere sight of Space Palestinians. The Space Palestinians, by the way, being portrayed as complete pacifists. And yes, that is essentially the entirety of the second story. It is some of the most extreme and blatant virtue signaling I have ever seen Cavan Scott do. And the fact that Cavan Scott decided to once again forcefully insert his politics into the story, specifically against the consent of the fandom at large, is what turned me off of this comic book. And again, it didn't have to be this way. If Cavan Scott simply knew when to shut up and ended with just the first story, I would not be trashing this comic. I would still be cautious about future issues because, again, Cavan Scott, but I would at least be saying that the first issue isn't actually bad. Still, even though the chicken has already flown the coop at this point, I will of course continue to endeavor to read this particular comic book series and keep you all informed about what else happens within it. But in any case, this has been Ace. Hope to see you guys again soon. Take care. Ace out.